Hey guys, before this video starts, I'd like to give a forewarning that this is a very long video. The reason of which is that I'm reviewing the More Town Upgrades mod, and I try to cover each and every single character's skill progression throughout the video. I omitted some stuff, didn't look at some of the skills through some classes because I didn't want to use too much time. That being said, even with all of my caring about the length of the video not getting too long, this is still a very long video. So what I will do is I'm going to be putting timestamps in the description below for each and every class if you would like to kind of skip around and figure out which skills you want to see and stuff like that. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Hey guys, it's LL Rybun or Rybun here. And today we're going to be looking at a very large and very game-changing mod. This mod for Heroes of Hammerwatch is called More Town Upgrades, and it does exactly that. So you see here already, this is my old profile, my current profile, which I have cloned and made modded. You'll see right away with the current profile, if you have it up to date, you can get a new guild hall upgrade and a new treasury upgrade. The other thing to note is this mod is based off of an older version of Heroes of Hammerwatch, I believe. So your ore trader rates, if you take this mod, will be worse at this upgrade level, but you can make them better later on. For the purposes of this video, I am also using trainer mod to give myself ore and gold, because otherwise it would take a monstrous amount of time to fully showcase this mod. I'm not going to be doing any of the custom classes that work with this mod, like Arcanist and stuff, to cover their abilities. However, I will be looking at all the base game classes, and I will be, through Class Changer probably, showcasing the raw power you can get out of each and every class. That being said, let's go ahead and start upgrading our Town Hall and see how much we can afford right now. I'll come back when I've bought all of the Town Hall upgrades. Okay, so a ton of ore later and a few guild hall upgrades later, I'm not even sure if we'll be able to afford everything here, but here's what we're looking at. We can get access to skills all the way up to tier 10. We can get a 50% tax rate at, it's a lot of zeros, 200 million gold. Get extra upgrades for the blacksmith. We actually can't upgrade the ore trader anymore. I lied, I guess, earlier. We can get an extra general store upgrade where we get 2 uncommon, 2 rare, and 1 epic item rather than... I think it's usually... What is this usually? 2 common, 2... Oh, 1 epic! And 2... You don't usually get 2 rares. I'm remembering 3 uncommon, I think. Maybe not. 2. I can't believe I don't know how the general store normally is. Either way, we can get this so that we can get a purple item right off the rip. We can get extra apothecary upgrades, and we can get extra magic shop upgrades. So I'm going to go ahead and try to buy all these right now. And we are already short on funds. We got 3 more upgrades to go. Hopefully this is enough. Alright, so we've completed all of the town upgrades. We'll be talking about the skills first, and then I'll have to show you them in action later. But basically this adds a scroll bar to your trainer. And you can get stuff such as this. Each hit with the sword adds 90 magical damage instead of our usual, I think, 1. To all of the Paladin skills. Stacks up to 30 times. Each stack lasts for 2 seconds. So that is a lot of damage. And well, first and foremost, You guys saw how much ore it took to fully upgrade the thing. It was something like 700,000-ish. So this is one of those things that you get. It takes a lot of time to get through it. And the skills themselves even cost a lot of points. That being said, even though they cost a lot of points, if you get them, it takes away a lot of the balancing of Heroes of Hammerwatch. Imagine that your attack, instead of dealing 31 damage, is dealing 3,650 damage, which is then multiplied by your class titles of attack power and such, and you get explosive numbers. That being said, this isn't... I mean, it's not... If you were doing this without class titles, I can see this being semi-balanced. But just in general, the idea of pushing anything further than the base game values, you're gonna have a very hard time making an argument that this is balanced. That being said, it does produce some cool effects, like a 360-degree arc of blocking projectiles, aka the Paladin is completely immune to projectiles in this mod if you max out shield. There's some other stuff too, but it's really funny looking at the scaling of some things. This goes from 25% all the way up to 30%. Really the only thing changes is the time, and the percent goes up slightly. Whereas with the shield, you're getting a 30-degree arc addition every single level. Stuff like this goes up monstrously. Lay on Hands heals you for 1,100 health plus 3% of max health every second for 5 seconds. Yeah. I'll exhibit all this stuff later. But more so than that, the other thing that scales very hard is the blacksmith. I haven't bought any upgrades yet. So here are my character's stats. I'm going to add a lot of gold, and I'm going to buy a ton of weapon upgrades, and I'll show you guys the results. Alright, so we have 84 million gold. Hopefully that's enough. Yet again, we're at 240 attack power. Just look at these numbers as we're going up. We're now at 740 attack power. Our armor, which is at... Oh, I guess our NG level is pretty high. But we're at negative 222. Now we're at positive 52 in NG 13. Okay. Crit chance. What about crit chance? We have a 0% chance to crit. Now we have a 25% chance to crit. Crit damage is at 420%. Goes all the way up to 720%. Which isn't that super big. Movement speed, we're at 2.4. And we can get all the way up to 3.9. Imagine this being your default movement speed. And the potion upgrades aren't super important, but we've got 1 charge, 2 charge, 3 charge, 4 charge, 5 charge. I guess that didn't go up much. Yeah, so your mana potion, your potion gives you 100,000 mana, okay. Health pickups increased by 1,400%. Same thing with mana pickups. And last but not least, we've got our beautiful, beautiful magic shop. Our resistance is at negative 250.3. Now it's at 4.7. Not as bad, 255 compared to the 275 of that one. Skill damage, we're at 60. Now we're at 560, same amount, 500. Skill crit chance is at 0. Now it's at 25. Skilled crit damage, 260. I'm assuming this is be the same at 300. So we're expecting a 560. Yep. That being said, those aren't super big upgrades compared to the skills. The skills are the thing that's going to scale the most ridiculously. So that being said, let me get a character where I have tons of points. So give me 2 seconds. Alright, so I'm on my thief. I've gotten rid of all of my anvil upgrades so we can see the total amount of stuff we can do. We'll also look at the thief skills. You can get your smoke cloud to give you 50% evasion, but on top of that you can get 50% evasion on your sidestep. That's insane. We can get extra attack speed up to 50 stacks, and we can get our chance of triggering the current health passive by up to 12.5% for 10% of health. That's not super huge minus the 10%, but it's a pretty big upgrade. Your primary goes from 16 damage to 40 with only 16 stars. I mean, that in its own is crazy. All the way up to 950. Grappling hook, the cost goes up, which makes this almost worthless. But the stun duration goes up. And your knives go up all the way to 15 knives in a 95-degree arc for 3,750 damage each, piercing up to 15 enemies. So we'll showcase a few of these things. First and foremost, let's do the attack speed. We'll do what we can afford. So attack speed. Let's do the primary as well. So this is with no drinks, no items. We're hitting the armored guy for 2,300. This guy for like 3,000. And as you can see, we are attacking ridiculously fast. Let's look at the throwing knives next. So this is what your right click looks like. It's a little expensive, so I can't use it a lot, but this is what it looked like on the thief. And now I'll show you what happens if you take something like an actual build that you would run in the game. So I'll retrain this. We're obviously going to max out our primary here for tons of damage. We're going to get 2 points in this. We're definitely getting these guys up. I'll take this to max, this to max. I'm not going to learn this because I usually don't. I kind of think the best thing to do here is put, maybe not points to the smoke bomb, it gets too expensive. We're gonna go for all of the passives. I think this one more so than anything. I think the attack speed is huge. And then the evasion. We'll put more points into this. And then maybe a point into this for the 34% evade. So that being said, one of the advantages of this, which I will show you, is that if you think about it real quick, hitting for 950, this makes Incendiary Demise basically worthless. So you take Frenetic and Wicked Sickness, you can take Overflowing Physique, and you can take Groovy Ghost and Crazy Eye here. We're going to roll the same items. In fact, we should probably go enhance both of them. Heartseeker, Lucky Hat. And this is what our shop looks like. So here's a really good set of items. Buy ace keys in this one too, by the way. So you can start off with ace keys. So let's go ahead and run the hardest thing we've got. I think is like 20, 21. Yeah. And watch as I absolutely breeze through everything. This is not a difficulty. I can probably just sit here. Fairly reasonably, I can just sit here. This is not a difficulty I can normally do with anywhere near this amount of ease. Yeah, I may be able to beat it here and there, but the damages you're seeing with like practically no items is, I mean, it's disgusting. And that's kind of the whole point of this mod, I think, is to take the game and blow it into astronomical proportions. You can do tons of damage right off the start of the game. You don't really need to think too much, and there's stuff like this. Without further ado though, let's go ahead and look at some of the other classes and what their abilities look like. Here's a Paladin. Let's just look at the stacking damage first. We won't even put any other points into our sword. We'll just let this stack our damage. So we're hitting for 7,666 damage. If we bump up our sword's actual attack as well. Yeah, we're hitting for 17,000 damage on non-crits. So that's that. I'll have to showcase the shield in a second. Let's look at what the maximum level of dash looks like. We go this far, which is pretty impressive. And we'll respec. Here's a maximum whirlwind. Oh wait. There you go. Crown of Kings will fix this for us. Here's the maximum level of our whirlwind. Dealing 11,028 damage. Now, as we all know, that also works off of this passive. So, maxing out said passive. Here we go, 16,000 damage. Pretty nice. This is the build we'll be rocking when we go into the dungeon. Mainly defensive, and then, of course, Flames of Devotion way up, and our primary way up. Here's the shield in action. You're literally immune to projectiles. Let me go take some damage real quick so we can see the healing. Here it comes. Pretty amazing. Alright, let's move on to the next class. Ranger seems amazing with the way that they scale. First and foremost, your bow shot that usually has a 40% chance of splitting goes all the way up to 50%, which isn't super big, but it's nice. You've got your crit chance, which is usually a 12.5% chance to mark for 2.5 seconds. They have a 5% chance to receive a crit, all the way up to 25% chance to do the mark. The evasion is just like the thief, except it also moves the movement speed up to 50%. Your power shot goes from 80 magical or 240 magical damage to 35,150 with 75% resistance ignored, and fully charges after 1 second, which is, I think, normal. Yeah. Your Grasping Roots reduces armor by 50% and immobilizes them for 6 seconds. Your Flurry of arrows, instead of doing 64 arrows, does 104. And your bowshot scales from 12 damage all the way up to 2,350 damage. Your movement speed penalty goes down to 20% rather than 25, which is not awful. And they can pierce 10 enemies. That being said, let's get into the really good interactions of twinned arrows and your primary attack. We shoot a yeah, if we fire continuously at these dummies here, you'll notice that it's going over to the other dummy fairly often. Let's get some luck items in here. Now you've got an enhanced lucky hat. And you'll see that it's going over more often. In the field, this is going to be disgustingly huge. You'll also notice we're hitting for a ton of damage on the ranger with no drinks, which is great. If we grab the marking ability as well, you'll see we keep a constant mark on our enemies pretty much. Even the one that it's bouncing to, for the most part, we keep it pretty much constantly there. Which is, I mean, easy enough to say, this is a very, very big buff to the ranger. Next, we'll look at some of the skills. First and foremost, we'll look at this by itself. Obviously, we know this gives 50% evasion. However, the movement speed with the maximum boots upgrade makes you walk around like there's no resistance. You just zoom. That being said, we'll take a look at some of the active abilities. Here's the arrow spin. Alright, so here's the arrow spin with maxed out bow shot and twin arrows. As you can see, arrows bounce off of these guys like crazy, and we are firing a ton, and I mean a ton of arrows here. Here's the powerful arrow. I think that's 790,000 damage. And here's what the roots look like. As you can see, these units are immobilized for an incredibly long time. That being said, let's move on to the next class. In case you're wondering, this is what it would look like if you could sustainably use your right click button on the ranger in these dungeons. Pretty self-explanatory how busted that is. Okay, the Sorcerer gets pretty crazy too. First and foremost, your primary goes up to 1,900 hybrid damage. Unfortunately, I don't think it could bounce any more than it already did. Your Comet, which I never personally use because it's pretty lackluster to me, deals 28,000 damage. People get frozen when they're hit. The Frost Nova, one of my personal favorites, does 21 frost balls, each dealing 3,000 damage. The Orb of Winter does 2,400 hybrid damage, and it moves forward for 7 seconds rather than 6.5. The chill gets pretty crazy. So instead of a 40% chance or 40% slow, it becomes a 75% slow with a 10% chance to freeze rather than a 7.5. The Ice Barrier, instead of stacking up to 8 times, stacks up to 10 times, and it reduces the damage instance by 75% and also lasts for 5 seconds rather than 2.5. And finally, Shatter, the thing that makes enemies blow up, instead of dealing 80 hybrid damage, does 9,400 damage. I'll be showing off probably not the primary so much as these two skills. You'll be able to see this too. I'll show you this off. And for Shatter, we may take this into the dungeon or something like that. Let me just say ahead of time, this ability costs 2,025 mana. You have Wilmer, this thing will do wonders for you. Likewise, this costs 730 mana, so it will also do wonders for you. That being said, look at this damage. This is without Wilmer. Let's go grab Wilmer real quick. Alright, the only thing that's changed is I now have Wilmer. And we're doing double the damage. And my Wilmer is level 7. So, yeah. That being said, here's the Nova. As you can see, we've got a little bit more in terms of orbs. And we're also hitting for 10,000 damage very easily. Let's go take the maximum level of... maximum level of the final passive into the dungeon. And maybe we'll trigger it with the primary so you know that's what's doing the damage. We'll take this too. So here's a mob of bats around me. It's kind of hard to see the explosion damage, but it's pretty big. That being said, next class. Let's just talk numbers with the Warlock real quick. You get soul consumption that deals 2,350 magical damage per second for 5 seconds on your primary. That's crazy. You got lightning bolt, which strikes 15 targets upon impact. Gargoyles, still with a cap of 5, but they each deal 3,750 magical damage. Amazing. You're looking at an electric storm that does 4,700 damage for 12 seconds rather than 11. The extended domain increases the range of all of your skills by 100% rather than 75. Soul Cleaver has a 75% chance to spread rather than sorry. It increases the damage taken that's dealt to the nearby enemies rather than the... It doesn't seem like it says anything at all about spreading. I'm not sure if that means it doesn't spread anymore or if it's just not changing that. And you get your lightning bolts to create a new one at a 75% chance. So even with my right click, you can see how many times this is hitting. Let's go ahead and test it with a full onslaught of gargoyles. This is what the damage looks like with the gargoyles out. If I position them better, yeah, you get a wall of text like this. Here's a build with the primary, the extended range, and the soul cleaver. So we hit this guy once. You can see we're healing for 230 health. A tick. And also you can see our attack range is much further. Unfortunately, these guys aren't close enough for the damage to be dealt to the other one. But we do get lots of healing and mana regeneration off of it. Lastly, we've got extended range of the right click. Goes this far and does this many zaps. That being said, if we get the final passive maxed out as well, you're looking at something like this, which actually at this point may be more viable than the gargoyles. If we single it out so it can only hit one target, that's a lot of damage. We'll take this into the dungeon real quick and just show you what it looks like. I personally never use right click, but this may make it work. Seems to work pretty well. Alright, and with that, on to the next class. Next we've got the priest. You can get the primary, which says slightly larger impact area. I'm kind of curious how big this gets, so we'll test that out first. It's a lot more damage. You've got your beam, which does a ton of damage and heals for a ton of damage. This one's pretty crazy. Consecrated ground does, well, first of all, it lasts for 7 seconds. 30% of the damage dealt is returned to allies in the area, and it hits for 4,700 damage. That's pretty crazy. Aura of Purification lowers resistance of all nearby enemies by 60%, and all allies in the area also take 50% less damage. 8 seconds compared to our 40%. 8 seconds, 30% less damage. It's pretty good. Then you've got Divine Protection, which is the mana shield, which goes up to absorbing 60% of the damage taken at 0.5 per, which really isn't too big of a buff from the 50%, but we'll take it. Health regain is 300% more effective instead of 200%, which is yet again okay, but we'll take it. And finally, the Celestial Orbs do 1,400 damage. So those are kind of the two things I want to see. We'll look at the primary first. It doesn't seem to be bigger than the normal primary, but it hits pretty hard. Here's the orbs in action. Absolutely melting things. Alright, so last thing to show is the beam, which also does a fair amount of damage. And finally the mana shield, so we'll hop into an NG20 dungeon real quick. We'll just walk into a room with stuff in it and let things hit us. So actually, because skills didn't cost mana, I think we lost mana there, but as you can see, it's not nearly as effective as some of the other defensive abilities that other characters get with this mod. That being said, let's move on to the next class. Okay, we're looking at the wizard now, whose fireball, instead of dealing 20 magical damage with longer range and larger impact area, we've got 2,350 magical damage. The fire breath does 1,550. The blast wave confuses and slows enemies by 75%, dealing 3,525 damage compared to the usual 60%. The confusion also lasts a second more. Got meteor shower hitting for 37,500 damage with 7 meteors rather than, I think, oh no, it's 7 in this ability. Okay. We've got combustion, which makes the burning over time damage go to 2,350 magical damage per second for 5 seconds, from 20 for 4 seconds. Flame Shield goes all the way up to 75%, similar to the Sorcerer, and recharges in 0.5 seconds rather than a normal 3. That is incredibly stronger. And then last but not least, all the wizard skills leave a burning danger area that deals 1,900 magical damage per second, lasts for 5 seconds. Now, what I'm getting from this is usually they increase the base values. So I'm guessing this is 1 second, this is 2 seconds, so that's 2.6, 3.2, it goes up from 0.6 from here. That being said, let's look at this real quick, this little burning area. 1, 2, yeah, compared to what we get here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, that is nice. That being said, I'm kind of curious, since this gets a longer range and impact area as you level it up, what does the final fireball look like? Definitely moves faster, but I don't think it's any bigger. That being said, you can stack a bunch of these damage areas up, because they last for 5 seconds, and you're doing tons of damage every second, which is nice. On top of that, if we grab Combustion, we're looking at damage like this, which we really can't tell the difference, but I'm assuming it's more. And next we'll take a look at all of the skills. First and foremost, the final skill. This skill. And the Breath of Fire, if we can manage to max it out. I'm not sure we can. Alright, we'll have to go back for that one. Here's the ultimate skill. Hits pretty hard. And then you've got your little blast. As you can see, the confusion lasts for a very long time. Last but not least, we've got the Breath of Fire, which has a very fast hit rate for whatever reason, and hits very hard. I can see this being incredibly effective. That being said, there's not too much interesting to show with going into a dungeon with this build. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip that step. I'm gonna try to do the other two classes, but I kind of have to just go with what I've got in terms of characters because they're not available in the class changer. So I'll try to get the Witch Hunter and the Gladiator going. Alright, so I've got my Gladiator here. Unfortunately, I only have 340 skill points, but I went ahead and maxed out the armory, or the blacksmith, and the magic shop. So we'll try to take this one piece at a time. However, some of these will be a little hard to do. We'll cover the ultimate passive first, which basically just increases the number of things you spawn. I can't hit this number, but you'll have to take my word for it. Increases it by 7. Here's our pit fighter army. We're looking at a ton of little soldiers, and yeah, this is not bad. That being said, let's respec. Let's see. This character has a lot of interesting passives with the primary attack, such as the trident allowing you to get stacks that let you instantly attack rather than waiting for the cooldown. If you combine that with this guy, you can get a ton of stacks off and attack very fast for a very long period of time. But we won't be able to show that here. Just in general, we won't be able to show this in general, but it scales from a 80% chance or 80% of blocking something after attacking with Trident to blocking 100% within 2 seconds instead of 0.2 seconds, which is ridiculous, by the way. This essentially makes the Gladiator immune to damage. Then you get planned attack, guaranteed crit when expending a stack of Trident. Stacks recharge over 0.2 seconds, maximum of 42 stacks. That's disgusting. Pit fighters, you know how pit fighters work. But what happens is they scale from 600 health, 30 armor, and 30 resistance to 50,001 health, 1,600 armor, and 1,600 resistance, dealing 5,625 damage, whereas up here they do 50. The Gladius goes from a solid 128 magical damage after spinning to 15,000, which is yet again crazy. And then you've got your crippling net, which slows the enemies by 80%. Oh, sorry. Slows them by 80% for 3 seconds. They take 100% more damage, all the way up to 200%, and they get slowed by 80%. Pretty nice. So let's see this Trident in action. I'm going to use a auto clicker to show you how fast you can attack for how long. But it basically looks like this. That being said, I can kind of show you this, but not really, but we'll give it a go. So we've got our guaranteed crit stacks, which are these guys. Pretty self-explanatory. You can see how fast they come in. I don't know if we can max out pit fighters. Unfortunately, we cannot. And actually, I have to turn off this guy so we can cast it. But here they are, dealing really strange crit numbers. Oh no, 28,000 is not. Yeah, that's about right. But yeah, they hit pretty hard. And imagine having a ton of these guys. The exact 10. And then we've got the Gladius, which we also cannot max out, unfortunately. But there it is, dealing 4,023 damage. Right? The Witch Hunter is next. Okay guys, I just did an NG15 run on this character, so specifically so I could have enough skill points, because this is as far as I could go before. That being said, the first thing is your primary does 8 bolts rather than 4 in quick succession, each dealing 2,345 damage. This looks like this. And that's a lot of damage. Your Flaming Hounds deal more damage, which is increased when they bounce. Same thing as before. It's just more damage, up to a total of 4,125 damage. Your Branding Ward, which you place on the ground, deals 11,720 magical damage, and they're branded for 30 seconds, which makes them take 225% more damage. I'm not sure if this works on bosses because I don't personally play this class that often, but if it does, that is crazy. Your Bonfire now has 50,001 health, 2,000 armor and resistance. Everyone that hits it takes 11,700 damage. Anyone close to it also burns. It's pretty good. You've got Fanatic Zeal. Whenever you cast a skill, you get crit hit chance for all attacks and skills. It increases by 2.5% for each stack. Maximum 4 stacks. Each lasts 4 seconds. All the way up to 13 stacks that last 13 seconds with 3.75% crit. Just to show you what that looks like when you max this out and you spam skills. I have a 25% chance to crit. This will take a second. And there it is, a 61% chance to crit. The other skills you've got is your Crow Storm goes up to 30 murderous crows. The guy who made this mod liked the crows because you usually get crows. This thing changes it from crows to dire crows, also increasing the count. They deal more damage and have more health. And then you get murderous crows eventually, which deal more damage and have even more health for 4 seconds, or 4-second cooldown from the 7-second cooldown. And the last thing is that, yeah, whenever you cast a skill, you do a ton of extra damage by throwing this torch. The only thing really to showcase here, I think, are the more murderous crows. That's the only thing left to showcase, I think. Sorry, yeah, we'll showcase how tanky the fire becomes, and we'll showcase how crazy the crows are. So first and foremost, the fire both does tons of damage and is ridiculously tanky. I'll go ahead and jump into a portal because I just did this. There are crows, which, contrary to popular belief, can't deal damage to bats, apparently, I guess. They just kind of sit on them. Alright. Okay, let's go into a room of bugs so I can show you what the crows do. Here's a room of bugs. There you go. They only do 360 damage, actually, so they're not that great. But if I leave this in here, it can take a beating. I mean, they are hitting it for 1, so that's that. That being said, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video covering the Moortown Upgrades mod. In general, as a mod, I'd say it's very broken. It scales really hard, and you're not gonna be able to play the game normally with this mod. However, it does kind of function as an ore sink, and it also lets you experience crazy numbers. So if you're into those kinds of things, this is the mod for you. It's a pretty good mod overall, I feel like. There's some scalings that are done a little bit differently than others, which makes me feel a little bit wishy-washy on it as a whole, where you've got stuff scaling way harder than other abilities are, and it just feels weird. But I mean, rightfully so. Like, in my mind, the Paladin should never have a 100% immunity to projectiles, but in this mod you do. And if that's your kind of thing, go for it. Anywho, I hope you guys liked this video. I think this will be published in the week of Christmas. On Thursday is the projected time. That being said, I'm sorry, I personally celebrate Christmas with my family, so I don't know the other dates. However, I hope you guys are having a wonderful holiday and enjoying time with your friends and family, and I will catch you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.